All right, Naomi and Rami, it is great to see you guys. Thanks so much for taking some time out to be in the studio with me today. I'm looking very forward to the conversation. How are you guys doing today?
Good. Thank you so much, Rick.
Well, thank you. Good to see you.
Good to see you. We feel
Yes.
honored to be interviewed by you.
Well, it's my privilege, certainly, and I think it will be the privilege of the people who listen to this podcast and understand the incredible value that the two of you are bringing to the world. Like many wonderful people, I met the two of you through our mutual friend and mentor, Paul Martinelli. So we share the empowered living community and have certainly shared some great experiences with Paul and many other people in that community. And certainly anyone who's in that community knows that you guys are absolutely the best when it comes to something called Neuro-Linguistic Programming, which I want to get into. But I want to hear about your story, and I want to know about your backgrounds and about your journeys, and of course, how that led you to the study and the practice and the master practice of neuro-linguistic programming. So really, you can start in your story wherever you want to, and we'll take it from there.
Thank you. Thank you, Rick. We are honored to be part of the Empowered Living and mentor by Paul Martinelli. So, like the all, I would say I love this community and Paul because like our values are aligned in the sense of like serving God. And that's
Yes.
what we are here about. And that's also bring us to how we got to NLP, because like when we think serving God, we think like on the day you were born, God decided the world cannot exist without you. So
I love
that. So we really believe that every person has his own like passion and fingerprint that nobody else can do. Like if you think about like even if you go through airport, like soon like you just put your fingerprint and nobody in the world has the same even fingerprint, right?
Right.
So we are so unique and each has their own mission. So like at certain point I was doing like big marketing job and I would fly back and forth and meet all these successful people, even Warren Buffett companies and stuff like that, but I felt numb inside. There was like this feeling of numb, like I'm not in my path or my specific mission and purpose.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, I felt like suffering pretty much because like I could be successful externally, but like internally, I felt numbness. So I said, it's a lot to do. Like I always was curious about subconscious mind and the brain, how it works and all the thing. So I started to search anything to do around it. I even considered back then like doing PhD about the brain and stuff like that. And then, also encounter the NLP. And
Okay.
the NLP helped me tremendously get back aligned with my true self, like all those internal conflicts, I'm talking a fast process, like in a session or two, you like have this deep internal conflict and it's gone. So I can give you like a real quick example. Like I had this terrible internal conflict that like I wanted to build my own entrepreneurship around the subconscious mind and things like that. At the same time, I learned at home, I was pre-programmed to learn that give is for free. And that doesn't work with business. Somehow you need to change the link that you have in the head that you can still give and still get paid when it comes to your business and entrepreneurship. Sure. Otherwise, how would you survive?
Well, I think a lot of people who are in a service-based business probably have a servant's heart in that, and it's probably easy for us to have been sort of programmed, as you said, right, with this idea that if you serve, you don't get paid, right?
Exactly.
So, okay, well, let me take you back a little bit, if you don't mind, to your story a little bit. You said you were kind of going from one place to another. Obviously, anyone who's listening to you knows that you and I, we have different accents, right, when we talk. So that means we grew up in different places. So what was here to there in your journey when you were kind of this sense of that, you had that internal struggle? What was going on in your life and where were you going? And of course, what is your background? Where are you from? Because
So we were born in Israel and we grew up there. And we're talking about like when I was like 30 years old that I started to fly back and forth doing the marketing. And that's like, and I had like 3 kids at home, so like it was like hard also to leave them back. So like it's one thing if when you do like you sacrifice for your mission and purpose certain thing, but like when you feel like you do it just because you somehow got into it.
Somehow, just because your husband asked you to.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, yeah, that's that sense of like, I always like from the time I was a little girl, like when people didn't believe, for example, like even basic things, like people, they pre-programmed to believe that math is scary, that they can never do math or something.
Yeah.
I always saw the resources within them, and I will always say, yes, you can, and I'll show them the way to find the way. So, but like the main thing was like that. When I started to be exposed to the NLP, I remember first I was very mad and very upset because like it released so much unconscious pre-programmed. And I remember how mad I was that I didn't know about it before. I said, how could people know about it and didn't tell me? How much suffering, less suffering could I go through, like going through high school, going through any challenges?
Sure.
And so I said at that moment, I was obsessed. I said, I'm going to learn as much as I can, like from all over the world and stuff like that, so I can bring best to the table and also align it with my belief in God, because there are certain practice that I wouldn't do. Like I would not talk to dead people. So
yeah.
Right. So I brought like so that's pretty much.
Yeah, you needed your own sort of spiritual boundaries in it as well, right? That aligned with your beliefs. And so, by the way, one thing about what you said there, you were talking about it made you angry because you realized, it sounds like what you're saying is that you realized you had done a lot of unnecessary suffering.
Exactly.
Do I have that right? And it occurs to me that when you're talking about suffering in this context, you're not necessarily talking about physical suffering or some kind of external oppression, perhaps, but you're talking about the suffering of your mind, right?
Yeah, the mind and soul. It's like the soul.
Oh, yeah.
It's like soul, mind, spirit, right? Like, so
yeah.
It was tremendously suffering. It's like you are like, we have the body that it's the temple of the soul, right? But like the soul wants to do what the specific fingerprint, like the specific purpose. And that's what I was searching for. And that helped me. And like, I see it, Rami and we see it every day. I mean, like, Rami, you can share maybe the story. Like there is even like medically talking about physically for a moment. So you can tell a little bit about like what happened with Barbara. She's like 86 years old. Rami, you tell the story. What did she say? Like when she suffered first, and yeah, you can share it with you.
Barbara was someone that you were working with, correct?
Yes. Among others, this part of NLP, I'm so passionate about it. It's like the more people I can help, the more passionate I am. It's like a feeding loop. She's now she's 87 years old. First time I met her, she was about almost 86. And she was giving up on life, literally giving up on life. I met her on the way. I helped her getting to a doctor, and she poured her heart. And I said, Barbara, if you're willing, I can help you. And it took time. I drove her back home, and then on the way home, she said, "Rami, let's give it a try." So I spent 3 sessions with her. Every session is about 1.5 hours. And I said, "Barbara, listen, whatever will be, just I want to be aware of that. It's a process that will take time, and every day, every week pass, it will be better." Now, she physically she had a very high PMR, like all her body was inflated. She lost her eyes sight almost, and she couldn't lift herself up from the chair. And she was mentally broken, giving up. Fast forward, don't want to get into too much details. Her blood test now is like normal. She's joyful. She's full of life. She's actively doing everything she wants to do. And it's an amazing story.
And what you're really talking about there is, what you're saying is the intervention that you did with her was a mental or a cognitive intervention. In other words, you weren't prescribing medication. You weren't giving her physical therapy. You were having very purposeful conversations with her that are the kind of conversations that we typically don't have, right?
Correct. So what NLP is about, or what I like to define it as, the study of the structure of subjective experience. The study of the structure of subjective experience. What it means that everyone is encoding and decoding information differently. And according to that that determines behavior. And once you are able to get track of how this person is encoding and decoding information, you can tap in and make the right changes so the end result will be different. Now, in neuroscience and brain searches, they already proved that what wires together fires together, right? So so it's a path. There is a neural pathway for that fires for everything that we think and do. Now, once you tap into the structure of that neural pathway and you change even one parameter, once it's refired, the end result will be different. That's one aspect of what I did with her. That's NLP allow you to do that. The second thing the other thing that I did with her is I tapped, and we talked about it, is we connected to the superconscious mind through hypnosis. And what that gave, it gave the subconscious mind the options to tap into the resources to make those changes. Okay, and the end result, and this, I did it with so many people. Like, the end result it's amazing. Like, and it's fast and it's lasting, and it's it's really make our life, and we are so joyful and blessed so that we can do that, help people. Yeah.
So I'm just going to break down what you said just a little bit, because this is so fascinating. Because what you're saying is that you were not doing brain surgery on her to go into her physical makeup of her brain, into those physical neural pathways, which were firing together, wired together and firing together. I think in parentheses, I would say what you're suggesting is the structure works habitually or automatically. We talk about the concept of it being programmed, right? So it sounds like that this subjective experience that we're having has a physiological component to it, but you don't change the subjective experience by going in physically and changing it. You were helping her to do something other than physical, to actually physically not only rewire her brain, but as you've said, her body changed. The rest of her body changed, right? And all of that, the intervention that happened in there was something that was non-physical. And then you were talking about this concept of superconscious. So I think we got to understand what that is, because when I say super, that means above, right? And so just help me understand that a little bit, because it almost sounds like you're even talking about not only thoughts that we could consider are part of an internal structure of who we are, but something outside of us. Is that what you're saying? Or help me understand what you're talking about when you say the superconscious.
Sure. So we refer to it as many refer to it as higher self.
Okay.
Right. Or superpowers. What we found out we conducted the research and study, and we found a way to, prove that it's there and how to connect to it. So what we found out that what we refer as the unconscious is everything that you're not aware of. Is divided into, we can divide it into two. This is like the subconscious, everything that is below your level of awareness.
Okay.
And that's mostly, the part of the soul, and that's how I connect it, okay? The part of the soul that enable your body to function.
Okay.
And I call it the garments of the soul. Okay, your thought, your speech, your behavior are the garments of your soul. And what governs it is the superconscious, which is above your level of awareness. And it's this part that is connected to God, to the infinite resources that are out there. And we have it in our behavior. We have it in our language. When we look for answers, we look up, right? When we look for help, we look up. It's even in our language. So the superconscious mind is something that a long history, many cultures refer to. We just found a way to connect to it, and by connecting to the superconscious mind, which is part of us, we allow ourselves to get access to infinite resources, and there is a way to download those this information or those programs, strategies. It's kind of the subconscious mind kind of create a bridge between the subconscious mind to the superconscious mind, which allow us this connection.
That is fascinating, and so what I'm hearing, among other things, and what you're saying is, you're not talking to us out of something that you read in a book or something that you watched in a 30-second TikTok video. You've invested years of your life in this, correct?
Yes.
So talk about that a little bit. You did a really great job of saying kind of a really short description of what neuro-linguistic programming is. Naomi was talking about her entry into it came from kind of her own lack of fulfillment and coming into it, and really even considering at that point studying it as a PhD, right? How did you first encounter this? Did the two of you encounter it at the same time or separately, or Rami, how did you encounter neuro-linguistic programming yourself?
Well, I follow my wife.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Smart guy, right? Yeah. So it was out of her experience that she described that you then became interested in this as well.
We kind of have got interest in NLP from different perspectives. Naomi and I worked together. We had a big firm of jewelry company in Israel.
E-designer. Jewelry.
So I've been an entrepreneur for more than 30 years. It was an 8-figure company yearly.
Doing very well
comparing to Israel. Israel is a very small country. On my late 30s, I was always fascinated by the question of why we are here. Okay, for me, it doesn't make sense that we invest so much time in raising a human being for such a short period. By talking about evolution, talking about nature, it doesn't make sense. So I wonder why we are here. What's the purpose of this investment of 20, 25 years of at least 20 years in someone to become mature, for him to, 20, 30, 40 years, and then, kind of it's over.
Yeah,
So,
and then, by the way, let me interject because that's an interesting point you're making about that is something distinctive about humans. I mean, we have the longest period of nurturing of any creature on Earth, right?
Absolutely.
That's and much longer than most, and then even the thing that's probably the next closest to us it's still a significantly longer time frame, right? So you were pondering this, and I know I interrupted you there, but I just I just wanted to share that thought.
And this is something that I had it from a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
So on my late 30s, kind of, I was like, with all the success, I was still pondering on that question because it doesn't seem that life is about what I'm doing. It's not about the money, and it's not about the respect and whatever it is there. So Naomi advised me there was a Kabbalist rabbi that she heard of, and she advised me to have a meeting with him. Kabbalah is the wisdom of creation, and it's ancient Jewish wisdom. So I had this meeting with him, and I was sitting, across the table. He didn't know me. He didn't know that I'm coming, even because you just write your name on a list, and you just get in by the order of the list.
You do it at the spot.
At the spot.
Right.
So I was sitting there, and he was like looking at me, and he said, you were saved from death. And I said, oh, yeah, of course. I'm Israeli. I was in the combat medic in the army. Of course, I was saved from death. That's not a big thing to say to an Israeli guy. And he continued, and he said, you were saved from death because you have a mission to fulfill. And that's kind of, when it's clicked to me, because I don't know if you can see it, but this part over here, when I was 5 years old, I was electrified to death. And there was no one there who can help me. I was trying to climb a stone wall barefoot, and I climbed on metal bars, and there were wires coming out of the wall, and I just hold the wires and one hand holding the metal bar, the pipe, one hand the wires. The wires were electric wires, and I closed the circuit. So knowing biology, there is no way you can open your hands, not before you're dead, because the muscles, just closing it. And I'm still here, I'm alive. So something helped me to remain alive, right? And they rushed me to the hospital, and the doctor said I was reborn. So yes, I was saved from that. And we had this conversation, and I became fascinating about Kabbalah, and I studied Kabbalah till this day. And as I was studying Kabbalah, I better understood what is the purpose of me being here.
Yeah.
And I remember I was visiting my friend in Ohio, and he said, we watched the brain that changing itself. It's a TV series, documentary about the brain plasticity.
Yes.
And this is when I became very interested in neuroscience. And when I found out through Naomi about NLP, everything clicked. And the more I learned, the more I was passionate to learn more. And the more I learned more, the more I was able to help people, which the more people I helped, the more passionate I became around it, to the point that I became a developer in the field of NLP.
Yeah, so you went beyond. You're not talking about a weekend certification or a course. You're talking about decades of time now. And by the way, I'm really thankful I have gotten at least these are 3 of your books, but these are a series, and it's all on meta thinking and persuasion, right? And it's a 3-part, but we're talking about in depth. I can only imagine the thousands of hours of your time invested in the research and development and learning and writing and editing and rewriting and that went in, the energy that you've sowed into these books. And so, I think that's important for people to understand that when the perspective from which you're talking about NLP there really aren't people who have a higher level of understanding of this, I think. And, yeah. And so, and by the way, let me just ask a simple question. I know when you went in to talk to this person and he said, you were saved from death for a mission, at that time, did you have a memory of this experience at 5 years old, or was that more kind of, was your perspective on that story something you'd been told, or a very vivid memory, you could recall it quickly? How was that for you?
It's a very vivid memory until this day.
Okay. Yeah. So,
and to that point, Rick, is like,
yes,
that was vivid. How much more experience in life that we went through, like what we call a significant emotional event that we went through that we don't even know or aware of because we don't recall it consciously, but they are still there unconsciously. So like when like a relationship, like couple, like each separate that I work with, you see how much they are triggered and they have no idea even when was the point, the first time, because everything is like Gestalt. So imagine like when I speak Hebrew and I speak English, it's like 2 separate links that like store in different place in the mind, because then that's why I speak only English now and not Hebrew. The same is with negative emotion. And so like when there is a trauma or negative emotion, or like the first time a person felt anger, okay, every time he felt a similar feeling, it's stored like Gestalt, like in one link. So when we visit, but we don't know when was the first time, right? So when we tap into the subconscious mind and we visit the first event and get the new learning, and we can only do it like by floating, because the last thing you want is the client to be associated to the trauma and experience it again. You want him to be dissociated and detached, and then only when he get the new learning, he can release this link. So then it doesn't mean that it releases what we call the unwarranted anger.
Yes.
And not like, it doesn't mean that if tomorrow someone hurt, try to push him or something, he won't be able to use anger, but it doesn't need to be triggered and like, how we catch ourselves and say, why did it bother me so much? It's like silly thing, right? So there are so many things that we are not aware and don't remember. We cannot recall. So it was a very good question on your part, Rick, to ask, was it vivid for you? But how many times it's not vivid, and it's not like you're not even aware it exists there.
And emotionally, and then our external reaction and our interactions with people, we are borrowing from past experiences, whether that be a traumatic experience or something that wasn't traumatic and maybe even a euphoric experience, or but some kind of high intensity or repeated experience, right? That we're borrowing from these, and it's really informing how we're showing up. And and I think I want a couple things and see if I understand this right. What you're talking about when you give the description of neuro-linguistic programming, you're talking about the structure of subjective experience, meaning while it may have a tie to a lived event or lived experiences, that it's really about the perspective with which we view the sort of filters in our mind through which we view ourselves, others, the world around us, the experiences that we're having, how we consider our place in the world. And let me just ask before I go to the next thing, am I tracking with that part?
Yes, you are absolutely.
Okay. And then, so what you're saying is, as a part of your work with people, what you're not trying to do is get them to relive an experience, but be able to view that experience, to observe that experience. And it's, did you use the word detached, and meaning that you're not experiencing that, you're not experiencing the emotions, you're more examining what's going on? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, because you are dissociated in the sense you don't go through the trauma again. So like, even if you think about post-trauma from like people who went to war and stuff, right?
Sure.
So like, and like, but when we are like babies, for example, we don't have the ability to judge, so we just absorb everything, right? So like, let's say if I'm like, let's say I'm 2 years old and I start to sing, and my mom, because she's on the phone, she's hush me. She goes, shh, okay? What I register in my head, my conclusion, that means that like when I'm singing, it means mom get upset. Okay, when I'm singing, it's unpleasant. Okay, so I can have the most beautiful voice, but like when I'm on stage later, people don't want to hear you. Mom hushed you, right? But I don't know why I'm so panicking now. I don't recall that I was 2 years old and my mom hushed me and then I made a decision, right? I made the limiting decision that I'm not singing anymore, or I don't want to be heard anymore, right? I didn't know, right? So like now I'm seeing myself and I'm like, if I freeze the picture right now, like I'm panicking or something, I'm on stage and I'm panicking, or someone told me to sing and I'm like so embarrassed, like I'm dying or something. That's the feeling sometimes. Like people are afraid to be on stage, for example, more than they're afraid to die. Okay, so right, but like in what point in their life someone hushed them when they talked? Right? Like, why would you be afraid to speak? You speak with your friend. Why would you be afraid to speak on stage? I mean, at certain point, something registers in their head that their voice doesn't matter, or like whatever they said, it's not the time, or whatever, right? Like so, and so all those registration in their head, and what does it mean? Whatever they say, if they see someone make a face, right? They conclude based on their filters and their significant emotional experience, what does it mean, right? So it's like, so only when you kind of aware and like release all those things. So like if we go back for a minute in my internal conflict when I did NLP, so part of me wanted just to give, just give free, why not, but part of me understood that, if I don't have income, how would I survive and how would my business survive?
Sure.
So there is with NLP there is neural experience thing that happen on the nerve system on a level. So in other words, like part of you practically personify the parts and like you put it on your hand, and what happened with the client is like it doesn't do it on purpose. Like as you release the barrier between the two parts that like so separate at certain point, as you release the barrier, and it's very hard to release the barrier, but you facilitate the right process, their hands practically go like that. And you ask them, do you do it? They no. And they are so shocked that like the body, remember the conflict, and like the body, so sometimes you do use the physiology of the body, but like unbelievable. So when finally I have the two parts aligned to a higher common purpose, you feel as if like 20 years of blockage of oxygen in your bloodstream, like all this toxicity release at once. It's like whoa, like you start crying out of happiness. You know what I mean? Like the relief of this. So it's so like those processes, like why would someone would suffer another 50, 80, 100 years going through this conflict that make him stuck, when there is a process that in 1 hour process, specifically for conflict, it's gone. That's it. And you're like, take off like crazy and you do your purpose.
So what does it mean in real life?
Yeah.
What Naomi she's sharing. We have this show on the living community, the key to your mind. So what I like to say is that we can only use ourself to the extent of how we know how to use it. Okay? So everyone says, you have so much potential, you have all the resources, right? The same is with your phone. How much of your phone are you using? You have a very smart phone in your hands. How much of its resources, its potential are you actually using?
Right.
Most you don't know of. And even those that you know of, you don't use it to the fullest potential. All right, you use your camera, but you know how to use the features of the camera? No. So the same with us. We can only use our potential and our resources within to the extent of knowing how to use them and being able to use them. And this is what Naomi is referring to. There is so much below our level of awareness that happens that limits us from access the resources, or even if we access those resources, that the potential, we are limited in our ability to fulfill its potential because of those filters.
So it's not a question of capacity of resources. It is some access to them and some practice in the use of them, the skillful use of the resources. I think as you've said, the awareness that the resources are there in the first place. But there's a theme that I hear coming through in what you've said, and that is that, well, we said earlier, a lot of the suffering in life is the suffering in the mind, right? It's not necessarily a physical suffering or a present suffering, but it's a reliving of a past suffering, and so I think there was one of the Stoics that said a good quote about that, like most of the suffering in my life, or maybe it was, one of the early founding fathers of the U.S. said, most of the suffering and bad things in my life never happened to me, right? They were all in my mind. But that we can live for a long time with unnecessary suffering. And what it sounds like there's a theme that you're saying is, once you begin to work with these processes and understand them, it really doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out process. It can be quick. I mean, you said moments ago that even in an hour of time, your whole trajectory could shift.
Absolutely.
On something, right?
Absolutely.
So let me ask this. Commonly, if we just think about people and we think about your experiences, you've mentioned several things, but if you were going to say, these are probably the three ways that this unnecessary suffering, this sort of unnecessary limitation shows up in people's lives, what would you say, just generally speaking? And I'm not necessarily specifically talking about being an entrepreneur or being a mom or being a dad, but generally speaking for humans, where do you think we typically are limited by this unnecessary suffering?
So yeah, even if we think about like the empowered living community, right? So most of them, they conduct leadership workshop and stuff like that, and they work with people. And often what happens is they meet resistance in their clients. So like our success is measured by the success of our clients. The clients, they're really trying to do their best of what they can, right? So they try to do the best, and they tell them, okay, for next week, let's do that. Okay, for next week, I expect you to do that and that. But then they don't. And it's not because they don't want. Truly, some of them, they desire so much, right? And they want so much, and like they're praying so much and stuff like that. But when internally something hold you back, for example, right? I want to make money, but giving, it means for free, then how would I make money? Okay. But I don't aware why it happened to me, right? I'm not aware how it hold me back. So imagine that person that helps his client, all of a sudden he noticed this pattern that repeat itself. Like, okay, he said he will, but he doesn't, right? He said, oh yeah, I promise I will lose this weight. Yeah, but he doesn't, right? When he pay attention to that, he, with those tools, can help him once and for all release what hold him back. And the limiting decision he made whenever, and the limiting beliefs he has about who he is and how worth he is and how, how enough he is and all those things. So that's like one thing. You see it also in the medical field that, of course, there are genetic thing, and of course, there's God, and He decide everything, right? Like, but at the same time, our attitude toward it impact the lifestyle in no matter what challenges we go through, right? So like if like everything that you learn you can unlearn, right? How did I learn to have this conflict? If I had this conflict, then I can unlearn it, right? You can decode it, right? So like if like when we were visiting relative and Rami see that she's shaking in one of her hand, and he asked her, how come you're not shaking in the other hand? And she said, because they put something in my brain, like a certain device that stops the shake. So he said, okay, then if the device could do that, right, because it's like stored at certain point in the mind, let's unlearn, right, learn and unlearn. So he was doing this with her, and then she stopped shaking in the other hand, because it's like, right, everything comes down to links X equal Y, or X causes Y. Right? So you'll hear people complain, oh, my husband drives me crazy. I can't stand this and I can't stand, right? Like it's that causes me, right?
Yes.
So if we form this link, we can break this link with all those fun, really cool process. People feel so happy, they come. Like last week, I had a client come in here and she said, Naomi, I'm so tired. I go for years to psychology or something. And of course, psychology is important too. I don't say it's not. At the same time, she said, I still live in the same story. I still get so, triggered and, think like that. So we did a simple process, and she goes home and she's like, Naomi, I feel this serenity. I'm so relaxed. I'm not triggered, So in that form, so like it's in business, right? In business, in entrepreneurial, it's also in companies. So everybody talking about communication and persuasion and all those things. Everything we communicate, right? Like even for our child, like if we want him to do something, the communication, like the result of communication depends on like the result I get means how I communicate. If I don't get the result I want, it means that I discommunicate. Okay. So in NLP, people live, all the clients live in effect. Okay. My environment caused me this thing caused me that. Our function is to bring the client into being in a cause. Not excuses, no reasoning, but like, why it doesn't work on all. No, you are in cause of, you create you co-create, you are in cause of the results you get. So right?
Moving to the cause end of the cause and effect equation, right? Move over to the cause. Yeah.
Yeah. So what happens is when you are walking in an environment, there is many people, everybody with their own subjective outlook, right? And the way they communicate. So they communicate in different language, and then they get upset. And like one person works so hard, feels that the other person get the stage, and the boss likes it, right? Like there's so many dynamics. And each of the person, if you work with him separate, release all those things and misconception about himself and about people and about that means that or that causes that. Imagine when you release those, how the teamwork, right? It's instead of competition, it becomes collaboration. And everything is so much more beautiful. So like when we had the Orthodox client, she said to us, she's very like extreme Orthodox, like believe only in God and stuff, right? Like that's life, right? And she said, Naomi, what you guys do, you bring the Messiah faster. Because when you release all these like baggages and toxicity, you become a better person. You become nicer. You are kinder. You're not like, angry for no reason.
I'm a designer. I like to use the word design. So every system, in general, every system is designed to produce, to get the results it's already getting. Okay, so the same with us, we as human beings. We are perfectly designed to get the results that we are already getting. If you want to get something better, you should change the design.
Right.
And we know how to change it. We know what to look for. We know how to change it. The same with communication. Your communication system is perfectly designed to get the results you're getting right now with your communication. You want to get something better, something else? Let's find out what should we add, change, or adjust in your communication system to get different results.
Yeah. A lot of what I hear you saying, you haven't said it in this way, but there's a couple of things that occur to me as I listen to what you're saying in this last bit here. One is that these opportunities are accessible to us. We're only limited by our ability and willingness to see that they're accessible at first. So that I think that the key word in what I'm hearing you saying is there's an accessibility to this. And then there's a viewpoint, there is a perspective, and there is almost like an attitude here. You mentioned being at the cause side instead of living at the effect side. And I think the one way I would put that is you're talking about an inside out process, meaning I am not waiting on something outside of me to change in the system. The system is in me, and I'm going from the inside out. So if the system in me is perfectly designed to get a result that is not something that I want or say that I want, I don't go outside of the system. I go inside of the system to do some altering, correct?
Yes, correct. Absolutely. And it's so fascinating because it's like when you think about like in a production process, you always have to figure what is the bottleneck, right? Where is the bottleneck? Where is the thing that hold? Otherwise, you won't get there if you don't take care of the whatever it's here that hold you back, and you try to fix here, right? It's not going to work. So you don't fix an NLP, unlike other field, is you don't fix the surface. You fix what caused the surface not to get what you want, right? So like if I take if we take a screen picture, right, of my life now, like I freeze the screen, this is how my life look like. That's 95% reflection of my subconscious mind and my programming. So that's why there is like books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? Like it's all pre-programmed. And unlike other thing is that there is the awareness that, okay, I'm screwed up, I'm this. But like with those tools, it's to unscrew it and fast, right? Yeah. Rather than like go 30 years and talk about it and understand it on the conscious level, but like understand it on the, okay, why suffering? Okay, 1, 2, 3. In fact, people can talk to me without even saying what they're suffering from. They can say, Mr. X causes me Y. Okay? They can say, I can't go somewhere because X equal Y, and there is X there, and X equal Y, it makes, right? Like, so all those things, and we can still do processes to release that in pen. And people always tend to blame around them. So like a client who come, right? And she said, I don't know if to divorce my husband or not to divorce. Okay. She has internal conflict. So when we go and we do the process, apparently it has nothing to do about her husband divorcing or not. All she wanted is to fulfill herself. And she wanted to study, to continue study in order to be like doing like kindergarten stuff, like she loves kids and stuff. And she doesn't allow herself, she's stuck from inside. So does she blame? Oh, my husband won't let me, or my husband, does say we don't have the money to go study. Or like she like, so should I divorce him or not? And right. So like when she released those, like this internal, right, she looks inside. And she doesn't even have to look. We facilitate and she releases it like, nerve in her nervous system. All of a sudden, she's happy. She's going back. She studies regardless of the limiting resources she feels she has. Okay. So all of a sudden she has answer, and all of a sudden she has the resources like, oh, I can ask for scholarship. Oh, I can do that. Or I can do that. Right. Like all of a sudden she's in a cause and she goes and studies and she stay happily married, right? So, so it's like saving life, it's like saving life.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and psychologists study that too. Yeah, they come and speak with us.
Okay, so let's do a few examples here. Let's talk about just if there is one simple NLP tool or process that you could share that's a quick thing to share for people to get value from pretty quickly, what would be a simple tool that anybody could use right now that they don't have to be an NLP practitioner, they can just have access to the tool? What would be one tool that someone could just use right now?
So yeah, like a simple tool can be like, there are certain tools that they have to learn how to do that. Like, but like, even if we think about like a simple tool, like when you feel something very intense and it does, like, it's okay to feel, right? But like, let's say you are in a crowd, you need to speak, you cannot now be there because then you won't serve your purpose at the moment. Like you want to serve and like to give the lecture or something. So what you can do is like literally you can step out of the picture. Like you can like go with your hand and push it away like as far as you can and make it like a small, like a stamp size. Okay. And like you can make it black in, and instead of colorful or something. Like you really can go like that and push it away and just watch it without the emotion are not there because you push the picture really far from you. And then you can lower the voice, that like the inner voice, like you can lower the voice, like you can even pretend that you are almost like you have a remote control in your hand. So even little things like that you can do that will help you right away, not to be too emotional to the sense that you cannot serve your purpose now at that moment.
Yeah. And so I love that because I think when someone notices that they're uneasy, that they're, I think of kind of like sometimes life is, this nice sinus rhythm. And sometimes life is like, and I think when we notice we're in that kind of, I don't remember what that pattern is called, but when we notice that, that's when we can just go, hold on, I can push that away and just look at it. And I like that. So
and no judgment. You look at it without judgment. You're just looking as if you're like watching a movie and like you're like just sending it away. And by the way, talking about like stage fear, for example, before you even go on the stage, you can what we call encore the stage. So you can like have like a certain spot where you mainly will stand, for example, and that spot you can at that moment like recall really, really good thing, like your success before and stuff like that, and really anchor that spot for you, like before you start, before even people come. So you can like really like have this safe place where once you are like, you precondition that place, right? Like you precondition it to feel really good as soon as you get in, because we like everything, right? Like our senses and everything is like what comes to my mind. Like it's just like I'm triggered by a negative thing, I can be triggered by positive things. So if I step positive thing into this like imaginative spot where I'm standing, the minute I step into it, I already precondition it to like remember how I got my master degree and I got, how people applaud to me before and how I had my first baby or whatever it is, that as soon as you step, you are like, it's like automatically put you into that state.
You could use that anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
I could be a student who hates getting up when the alarm hits. And I could decide the sound of that alarm is going to be like the happiest thing. Like I'm going to remember the day that I got a car given to me for my 16th birthday. I don't know what, whatever. I'm going to remember some kind of euphoric, happy feeling. And when that alarm clock goes off, that's what I'm going to already tomorrow morning. That's what I'm going to feel, right? You can kind of put yourself in that. You could use it. My spouse is going to come in through the door and I'm going to decide that door opening is like the signal for I'm in a fully relational, happy mode. So happy to be, whatever that is. I love that. That's available at any time.
Yeah. And
I think about people that go to meet someone new for the first time. You could go and you could put yourself in that coffee shop and you could imagine the kind of conversation that you're going to have with somebody and what that's going to look like and feel like and how you're going to show up.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. Good. And then we could go on with it, right? Yeah. Go ahead.
and Rick, you can make it even more vivid. So like if the alarm clock, you would put the alarm clock on while you are hearing your best music at the same time, while you are like really thinking about it at that moment, before you like anchoring it for future purpose. Okay. So then you don't need just to imagine, okay, when my alarm clock, that means that and that. You can vividly precondition it before.
Nice.
Like Pavlov, right? Like Pavlov experience, right? With the dog. Like he made the sound, show the dog a steak, right? The dog start to salivate. When the alarm continue, right? Like the sound continue, and he didn't even show the steak, the meat, the dog still salivated. So in other words, you can, like when you want really to precondition your alarm to feel all those good, put the alarm on purpose, start dancing, start feeling all these good memories. So you precondition it for future use. Nice.
Very nice. Okay, let's ask this question. Because I think anyone could use everything that we've just said and you've just mentioned. As far as, we think about the challenges of the entrepreneurial journey, and you mentioned like one of the things you overcame was this idea, I have to do this for free. If I'm going to do this, it can't charge. And all of a sudden you realize, wait a minute, if I can't charge, I can't eat. And, I kind of like eating, right? And my family does too. So, let's figure this one out. What's some advice that you could give to entrepreneurs just in terms of, things that they might want to consider about NLP, how they might want to think about using it. What advice for entrepreneurs do you have?
Based on my experience, I think it's the best investment you can make. It's the best investment. If assuming that they are entrepreneur and we come from this world, and assuming that they want to serve God, then we do it in alignment with that belief, that we only do think that bring the Messiah faster and allow you to really do your purpose in ethically way. And our student really they are if you take every person student and you will put them in competition, who can facilitate it best, it will be our student, not to show up, but because we are very, very devoted, Rami and I, and we really wanted to make sure they do it to the top. So I would really suggest, because I think it's the best investment that I ever did, truly. I have such a strong faith in God, and it brought me actually closer to Him, closer to my faith, because it allows me to release all those, bottlenecks and really do my fulfillment, serve God even better. So when I'm happier, I can serve better. So I really suggest to everyone, if it's not with us, whatever they want, but learn with someone that alignment with your values.
Sure.
And definitely learn it, because it's it's always the case. They always say, too bad I didn't know it before. How much less struggle I would have in life. And it's never late, but now. So that's one thing that I will definitely suggest everyone, to really acquire those tools, because it's life-changing. Even they don't need to, if they don't want to be coach or practitioner, they can just learn it for their own, just to get rid of it, take a session and release that. So that's another option. Yeah.
So let's outline then, what are the ways that people can work with you? They don't have to be in the same room with you, right? They can be remote, correct?
So because of what happened in COVID, everything turned into Zoom, right? So they can be remote, and it makes it easier for them. And also the fun part is they can be trained and certified. And the fun part about it is that you release all the baggages, all this toxicity while you're learning, and get certified too. And you can use it in the thing that you do already, right? No matter what you do, you can now use those tools to help your clients, to help your teamwork, to help right? Whatever you already do, you have you have big, huge tools that your client will be so blessed and feel so happy and just bless you. So that's
So I want to add, it's not that you gain new tools. Yes, you gain new tools. You also gain the resources to tap into to use the tools that you already, and the skills that you already possess in a much better way. And going back to the entrepreneurship question, with your permission.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
You know, as entrepreneurs, our day is really packed, right? We try to make time for things that we want to or have to do. And they said, no, if you're doing something and you get good results from doing that, do more of that. And you get better results, right? Time is limited. You cannot have more than 24 hours a day, right? So let's say, for example, sales. Okay, so what is your conversion rate? Right. So before you took Paul Martinelli course, you had, 20, 25%, 15 to 25%, 30% conversion rate. You took the program and you went up to 40, 50. That's a very good conversion rate. So let's say 5 out of 10 calls, 5 out of 10 sales processes or sales meetings, you get good results of. So if I want to get more sales, make more money, then I have to increase the number of calls, the number of meetings that I'm doing. Right? Meet more people. Time is limited. What NLP allows you is to increase your conversion rate, to make more use of your time in a way that you get better results in less time.
There's nothing running in your mind saying like, what I'm doing, it's like, all those thoughts. I hear clients say, oh, I feel hypocrite, or I feel like the other person feel that all I want is his money. All those thoughts that comes from like the time that, no matter how much they tell themselves million times, no, it's not. I'm giving serve. I'm here to serve and stuff. So like releasing all those limiting thing and understand you're on purpose, you're on a mission, but like on the unconscious level, not on the conscious that you have to fight within yourself while you have the other person waiting for you to like pitch or something.
And as a coach, as a leader, as a team manager, it's funny, we saw this coaching program that I don't want to mention, a very big leadership company had provided a coaching program to the members. And the lady who was giving this coaching program, she said, you should show empathy to the coachee while having the session. And she said, just say, yeah, I hear you, and nod with your head. Show empathy. And immediately in my head, there was this question, but what is the coachee favored representation system? Because if my favorite representation system is auditory, and you say to me, yeah, I see what you're saying or what you're meaning, for me, you just spoke different language. Like it's Japanese or Chinese. I don't understand what you mean, because I need you to say, I hear what you're saying, right? Or if my favorite representational system is feeling, and you say, I hear what you're saying, and I need you to feel me, not to hear me, then this part of empathy, you're losing your coaches, you're losing rapport, you're breaking rapport. Right? So NLP is so much more than whatever else is out there, giving you tools or information or knowledge how to conduct yourself in the world. NLP is so much more.
Yeah, well said. And okay, so if someone wanted to connect with you, let's say that what's the shortest time frame that someone could work with you? Let's say that they don't want to be certified, but they'd like to interact, because you've mentioned the word session. Can a person just purchase sessions from you, or how does that interaction work?
Yeah, absolutely. They can purchase a session, and like we have like a set of session, like 5 session, make a huge difference in their life.
Yeah.
We work like usually like we will focus on a specific problem that they feel like that bothers them the most. So like for example, if it's entrepreneurship, if they, they don't make as much as they want, or they don't have the motivation or something. And so we like each will be a separate thing. Like, so for example, if they want to lose weight, that's a different pack of sessions.
Right.
At the same time, one thing impact another. Once you release like a burden, like the main thing that like cause other impact other, because sometimes people, for example, will eat because they are unhappy with like their income. So of course, one thing impact another, but yeah, like usually like one session, it will still help them. Like, if they want, like they know exactly what's the problem, and they want they would come away and they say, I have this internal conflict. Naomi released it to me today. So yeah, by all means, we'll do it with them.
Okay. Yeah. And what I hear you saying in all of that is they may be coming to you on the topic, or the conversation of weight loss, but there's no private good, right? Whatever good comes out of that session is going to naturally flow in. If they're coming to you talking about finances, that's going to flow into other areas of their life, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. And so now, do you have anything that's available to people that they could do at their own pace, or something that they could get into? Do you have any digital products or things that people could go do?
Yes. So we have many digital projects and products, thanks God, that they can like for specific thing, even like we have like a link for like, how to overcome procrastination and other things like that. So they can like go to our website and see the different option. And by all means, the website is Neuro, like the nerve system, the neuro success, the word success, because you want, no matter what specifically you want to succeed with, successology, neurosuccessology.
A neurosuccessology. And we'll make sure that people get that link. And of course, we have these 3 books. Now, these aren't all of your works, right? There are other works that you have done, correct?
Right.
And just real quick on this one, can you just, this is a series of 3. Can you just quickly talk about this concept of meta thinking? Is anything that we might not have said so far that we could use to describe meta thinking?
Well, meta is above. So meta thinking is thinking about thinking. We unfortunately, like if you notice around, we are pre-programmed for moderate, to accept failure. At least you tried, right? You said to your son, at least you tried. You did a good job. So it's you are pre-programmed to accept moderate behavior or failure, and not to. You're not pre-programmed to achieve success. And I was modeling. NLP is about modeling. It's not a science that came out of blue. Modeling is the neuroscience and cognitive way to extract how successful people behave and achieve their results. So if you take the bell curve, what NLP does is modeling. So you have like the 2% at the end. They model the 2% of the 2%. So it's the science of success.
Yes. And
knowing how to model is not just following and do what he does, because you need to know his strategy. It's understand the neural pathways that he runs in his head before and after he's doing things, before, during, and after he's doing things. Modeling on the neural behavior.
Sure. Right.
That's NLP. So that's how you model
yes.
What's going with his somatic brain, with his cognitive mind, with his field mind. Everything is it's a complex way to model. So what I did, in the last 10 years, I modeled the most successful nonprofit organization in the world, which is a Chabad organization.
Mm-hmm.
Chabad is a Jewish movement that brings Judaism to different parts of the world, so people like me can enjoy and practice Judaism.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of successful, if it was a Christian, because Jewish people are only 15 million, 15 million in the world. So
Right.
it's a non-profit organization. If it was, for example, a Christian organization, their annual budget will be $300 billion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, which is enormous amount of money for non-profit organization. So I modeled this organization, and I modeled the rabbis, persons, the people who runs the different branches around the world. How do they operate? What do they think? How do they think it? And so on. Coming out of this is the modeling of thinking. You know, what strategies do they use in order to be so successful? And in very difficult places to live in, and inconvenient way of living as well.
Sure.
Continue pursuing their mission. So that's where meta thinking came into place, because they have a certain way of thinking that is above the regular thinking that we usually use. Even thinking about decision making and dealing with difficult people, and all those labels of new strategies of thinking. Even thinking about metacognition, the meta thinking is above metacognition.
Yeah.
So it's something fascinating that I was able to model, to extract, and to bring it into the user of every one of us.
Very nice. Okay, so let's one final question for you. What is on your horizon? So it's 2025, and we're recording this in January. So what are you expecting for the new year? What are you working on? What's going on with the two of you and your company? Where is the future taking you now?
So, Rami, you're working now on communication and book?
So there are different paths that we are on. One of them is like we talked about the superconscious mind. So we have a friend, very good friend, that I'm working with him about what we call the vertical timeline, which is a process that connects us to the superconscious mind. And this process, this new methodology tool, allows us to tap into infinite resources. For example, I had an author who was on a contract, and he had blockage. He had, for 3 months, he couldn't bring himself to write anything. So I had this process with him, with this vertical timeline. And 2 weeks later, he was not only working on the book that he was signed up for, he already had ideas and notes for 2 more books to continue with that book. So his blockage was disappeared, and he became so resourceful. So we are working on bringing that into the NLP realm. We will have presentation to the NLP professionals about it, and we continue researching and bringing it into that field. With communication is we have these 3 series of persuasion that bring persuasion to a level that it's more like a science than just a word.
Mm-hmm.
And walking about communication in general, we tap into the whole idea of communication, and we are working on bringing more of that into access, to have people access to the knowledge about it.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as helping people, we do it on a daily basis. Helping people with, we have people with complex health issues. I just helped someone who had a surgery removing tumor from his body.
Mm.
And the doctors were concerned that it can be more than 10 hours surgery.
Mm.
It ended up in less than 3 hours, and they were surprised how it could be. And, he just told them, well, I just had a session 5 days ago with this and this, and it was amazing. So we are in a mission to help as many people as we can.
Very nice.
We have like, when we think about, like, usually people think like big numbers, and of course everybody write their goals, and we do also hypnotic goal setting for people who needs it, like just to relive it, like to have it already in the system. We do that too. And for us, the most important is, like, we believe that every soul, like, because God created Adam, one person, right? So, and we all is, from one person we are all alive, right? Like, so what we believe that when you save one person's soul, it's like considered like you save the whole world. So for us, even if, like, one person come and he said, wow, Naomi, you moved me from here to here, and I feel so thankful, and now I can do more my purpose and things like that. And because of that, their family dynamic is better. And because of that, all of a sudden she finally get pregnant. And because of that, like, all those things create a whole world. So that's our obsession, like saving their souls, like help people save the soul. And we are just like,
very nice.
The way we look at that is like, we are just tools of, God is the ultimate creator, and we just co-create with him, and we are just tools in his hand to, like, bring more fulfillment on earth. And hopefully people will be more united and see the pain of other people too, and take it as a whole.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, I'm so glad to be united with the two of you and to know you. It's a privilege, and it's a privilege to know you and to get to know you better in this conversation. And you have so much to offer. We'll make sure that people can get connected with you, and thank you for your contribution here on this podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Rick, so much. And, like, your podcast is amazing. I really encourage everybody to listen to that, because you make the world a better place for everyone, and it's very inspiring. So thank you, Rick, and for you, Kate, your wife, that she inspired you too.
Thank you. Well, I wouldn't do it without Ken. He's sitting next here to me, and so I very much appreciate him as well. And so thank you. Those were kind words. I appreciate them, and I will certainly look forward to other conversations with you soon.